My son pushed me off the boat into the cold ocean, shouting, "Say hello to the sharks," and swam away, leaving me 10 miles from shore. He thought he had destroyed me, but I survived. When he returned home, I was waiting for him and said, "I've got something for you too." You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. Arnold's shoulder slammed against my front door, sending it crashing into the wall. The brass doorknob left a dent in the plaster. "Where's the money, old man?" His briefcase hit my dining table with a thunderclap. The salt shaker spun like a top. I set down my newspaper, folding it carefully along its creases. My reading glasses slipped down my nose as I looked up at my son. Sweat darkened his expensive shirt collar, despite the cool July evening. "Arnold, what? Don't play dumb with me." He paced between my kitchen and living room, his leather shoes squeaking against the hardwood. "I know about the insurance policy. I know about the savings account. I need that money now." His fist crashed against the oak table again. This time my coffee mug jumped. I stood slowly, my knees protesting. At 68, every movement reminded me of my age. "Son, you'll inherit everything when I'm gone. You know that." "When you're gone?" Arnold's laugh was sharp, bitter. He spun around to face me, his eyes wild. "I can't wait that long. Do you understand? I cannot wait." Through the open window, I heard Mrs. Patterson's dog barking in the distance. The ocean breeze carried the scent of salt and seaweed, usually so comforting. Tonight, it felt cold. "Arnold, please, sit down. Let's talk about this properly." "Talk?" He kicked my leather armchair, the one Margaret had bought me for our 40th anniversary. "I've been talking for months. You just sit here in this house, counting your money while I'm drowning." My hands began to shake, not from fear, but from disappointment. This wasn't the boy I'd taught to ride a bicycle. This wasn't the young man who'd graduated college with honors. "I've offered to help before. You rejected every suggestion." "Help?" Arnold's voice rose to a shout. "You mean your lectures about responsibility? Your advice about budgeting?" He swept his arm across my mantel, sending photo frames clattering to the floor. Our family pictures lay scattered. Margaret smiling at our wedding, Arnold blowing out birthday candles at age 7, Christmas mornings filled with laughter. "You're destroying my memories," I whispered. "Good. Maybe you'll finally understand what you're doing to me." I stepped toward him, trying to project calm authority, despite my trembling voice. "Arnold, I won't give you money to gamble away. That's not helping. That's enabling." His face twisted into something ugly, something I'd never seen before. "You stubborn fool. You think you'll live forever?" He leaned close enough that I could smell alcohol on his breath. "Maybe that'll happen sooner than you think." The words hung in the air like smoke. Cold realization crept up my spine. Arnold seemed to realize what he'd said. His expression shifted, panic flickering across his features. He grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. "Arnold, wait!" But he was already gone. His car engine roared to life in my driveway. Gravel scattered as he sped away, his taillights disappearing into the gathering darkness. I stood in my doorway, listening to the silence. The ocean breeze made the door creak on its hinges. Somewhere in the distance, a foghorn called across the water. 7 days passed without a word from Arnold. I checked my phone constantly, hoping for an apology text, a voicemail, anything. The silence was worse than the argument. Tuesday morning found me in my kitchen, making coffee with the same ritual I'd followed since Margaret died. Measure the grounds, add water, wait for the familiar gurgling sound. Simple routines kept loneliness at bay. The phone rang at exactly 9 o'clock. Arnold's name appeared on the caller ID. My hand hesitated over the receiver. What if he was still angry? What if he meant those awful words? But he was my son. "Hello? Dad?" Arnold's voice sounded different, softer, almost like the boy I remembered. "Dad, I need to apologize." I sank into my kitchen chair, relief flooding through me. "Arnold, thank goodness you called. I was out of line last week, completely out of line." He paused, and I heard him take a deep breath. "I said things I didn't mean, things that scared me after I said them." "Son, we all say things we regret when we're upset." "No, Dad. What I said was unforgivable. But maybe I could try to make it up to you." My coffee grew cold as I listened to my son's voice, searching for signs of the anger that had consumed him a week ago. Instead, I heard something I hadn't heard in years: vulnerability. How do you want to make it up to me? Remember when I was a kid? How we used to go fishing every summer? You taught me to cast, to be patient, to appreciate the quiet. A smile tugged at my lips. I did remember. 8-year-old Arnold squealing with delight when he caught his first bluegill at Monterey Lake. Margaret packing us sandwiches and reminding me to be patient with his constant questions. Those were good times, I said softly. Maybe we could go fishing tomorrow, like the old days? I know it's short notice, but I thought maybe the ocean this time. You always said you wanted to try deep-sea fishing. Something flickered in my chest. Not quite doubt, but awareness. Arnold had never enjoyed fishing as an adult. He'd always been too busy, too important, too impatient for the slow rhythm of casting and waiting. But Margaret's voice echoed in my memory. Give him another chance, Norbert. He's still your boy underneath all that anger. The ocean sounds wonderful, I heard myself saying. Really? You mean it? Of course, son. I thought you wouldn't want to talk to me anymore after everything. Never, Dad. You're all the family I have left. His words warmed me more than the morning sunshine streaming through my kitchen window. Outside, I could see Mrs. Patterson walking her little terrier, the same routine we'd all followed for years, normalcy returning. What time should I be ready? I asked. Early. Dawn, if you can manage it. The fish bite better in the morning, and we'll need to go pretty far out to find the good spots. How far out? 10, maybe 15 miles, where the big fish live. I made a mental note to check my fishing gear, buy some new tackle suitable for ocean fishing. It had been years since I'd cast a line anywhere but the calm waters of Monterey Lake. I'll be ready, I promised. Thanks, Dad. This means everything to me. After I hung up, I stood in my kitchen for a long moment, watching steam rise from my abandoned coffee. Tomorrow I would have my son back. Tomorrow we would rebuild what had been broken. I picked up my coffee and walked to the window, looking out at the Pacific in the distance. Somewhere out there, fish were waiting. The bell above the door chimed as I entered Bay Tackle Shop, filling my lungs with the familiar mixture of rubber boots, salt-cured bait, and possibility. Charlie Mendez looked up from organizing lures behind the counter. Norbert, haven't seen you in a while. Going after those lake trout again? Actually, Charlie, I need something different today. I pulled out the list I'd scribbled during breakfast. Ocean fishing, deep water. Charlie's weathered face creased with surprise. Ocean? That's a change for you. Special occasion. Fishing with my son tomorrow. He wants to try the big waters. Well, let's get you set up, right? Charlie emerged from behind the counter, leading me toward the rod displays. For ocean work, you'll want something with backbone. This spinning rod here, medium heavy action, 8 feet. Perfect for rockfish, lingcod, maybe even halibut if you're lucky. I tested the weight, feeling the rod's flex. It was heavier than my lake gear, more serious. This feels good. You'll need stronger line too. 20-pound test minimum. Ocean fish fight harder than anything you'll find in fresh water. Charlie spooled new line onto my reel with practiced efficiency. Where are you heading out from? Arnold mentioned going pretty far out. 10 or 15 miles. Charlie paused in his work. That's serious water, Norbert. You taking your own boat? Arnold's handling the arrangements. Make sure you've got safety gear. Radio, flares, life jackets. Ocean doesn't forgive mistakes like a lake does. I nodded, though Arnold hadn't mentioned safety equipment. He'd always been confident about these things, even as a child. Maybe too confident. Now let me grab you some circle hooks. They're better for ocean fishing, less likely to gut hook the fish. Charlie selected packages from his display. And you'll want bait. Sardines work well, but I've got some artificial lures that might interest you. 30 minutes later, I walked to my car with a bag full of new gear and a lighter wallet. The afternoon sun warmed my shoulders as I drove home, already imagining tomorrow's adventure. My phone rang as I was organizing my tackle box. Dad, just wanted to confirm everything for tomorrow. I'm all set, Arnold. Just got back from Charlie's shop with some ocean tackle. Perfect. And you're okay with going pretty far out? I know you're used to staying close to shore. Something in his voice made me pause. an urgency that didn't quite fit the casual conversation. How far are we talking? Far enough to find the really good fish. Trust me, Dad, you'll love it out there. Just the two of us, middle of the ocean, nothing but water for miles. Sounds peaceful. It will be. Totally isolated, just us. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen making sandwiches for tomorrow's trip. Ham and cheese, the way Margaret used to pack them. I filled my thermos with coffee, checked the weather app one more time. Perfect conditions. Light winds, calm seas, visibility excellent. I laid out my clothes for tomorrow. Old jeans, warm jacket, my lucky fishing hat. The same hat I'd worn when Arnold caught his first fish 25 years ago. That night, I set my alarm for 5:30, though I knew I'd wake up earlier from excitement. As I turned off my bedside lamp, I looked out my window toward the ocean. Tomorrow, Arnold and I would be out there together, rebuilding what we'd lost. The moon cast a silver path across the water, stretching toward the horizon. Miles and miles of open ocean waiting for us. Arnold's pickup truck idled in my driveway at exactly 7 o'clock, engine running, exhaust visible in the morning fog. I triple-checked my front door lock, then walked to the passenger side with my tackle box and thermos. "Morning, Dad." Arnold's smile seemed genuine, but his fingers drummed against the steering wheel. "Ready for our adventure?" "Been looking forward to it all night." I climbed into the cab, setting my coffee between us. The radio played oldies, Buddy Holly crooning about true love. How fitting for a father-son reconciliation. Arnold pulled out of the driveway faster than necessary, tires spinning slightly on the damp pavement. Beautiful morning for fishing. Where exactly are we headed? I fastened my seatbelt as Arnold accelerated toward Highway 1. Lake Monterey's the other direction. Change of plans. Arnold's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. There's bigger fish in the ocean, Dad. You like challenges. Something cold settled in my stomach. I don't know, Arnold. The ocean can be dangerous. Trust me. His laugh sounded forced. When have I ever steered you wrong? The question hung between us like morning mist. I could think of several occasions, but today was about reconciliation, not recriminations. Highway 1 stretched ahead, curving along the coastline. Arnold drove aggressively, passing slower cars on blind curves, accelerating through yellow lights. My coffee sloshed in its thermos with each sharp turn. "Slow down a bit, son. We've got plenty of time." Actually, we don't. Tide timing is crucial for ocean fishing. Arnold checked his rearview mirror for the third time in 5 minutes. Peak feeding happens during specific windows. I watched familiar landmarks disappear behind us. The suburban streets of Monterey gave way to redwood forests, then rocky coastline. Other cars became scarcer as we drove south toward Big Sur. "This is quite far from home," I observed, trying to keep concern from my voice. "That's the point. No crowds, no competition, just us and the fish." Arnold's smile never reached his eyes. "You'll love it out there, Dad. Totally isolated. Just the two of us, surrounded by nothing but water for miles." His words should have sounded peaceful. Instead, they made my chest tighten. Margaret's voice echoed in my memory. "Give him another chance, Norbert. He's still your boy." But looking at Arnold's profile, jaw clenched, eyes fixed ahead with laser focus, I wondered if my boy was still in there somewhere. The ocean stretched endlessly to our right, morning sun burning off the fog to reveal whitecaps dancing on deep blue water. Beautiful but unforgiving. I'd fished these waters once before, years ago, and remembered the vast emptiness that surrounded you, once land disappeared from view. How far out are we planning to go? Far enough to reach the point of no return? Arnold's choice of words sent another chill through me. The really good fish stay in deep water, away from everything. 20 minutes later, Arnold pulled into a small marina parking lot. Seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries mixing with the sound of waves against wooden docks. A few other fishing boats bobbed in their slips, but most were empty. Arnold turned off the engine. In the sudden silence, I could hear my own heartbeat mixing with the rhythmic slap of water against hulls. Seagulls shrieked overhead as I stepped out of Arnold's truck, my legs stiff from the drive. The marina bustled with weekend activity, families loading coolers, fishermen checking tackle, boat engines sputtering to life. Arnold moved with purpose, unloading our gear from the truck bed. "This way, Dad. Our boat's in slip 12. I followed him down the weathered wooden dock, carrying my tackle box and thermos. The boat Arnold had rented was bigger than I had expected, an 18-foot motorboat with outriggers and a small cabin. "You know how to operate this thing?" I asked, setting my gear on the dock. "Took a boating safety course last month." Arnold checked the fuel gauge, tested the motor controls. "Everything's in perfect working order." He seemed different here, more confident. This was clearly planned, not the spontaneous invitation he'd made it sound like. I watched him inspect life jackets, flares, marine radio, all the safety equipment required for ocean fishing. "Hop in, Dad. Let's get these rods secured." The boat rocked gently as I climbed aboard. Arnold cast off the dock lines with practiced efficiency, then started the motor. It rumbled to life, sending vibrations through the fiberglass hull. "Here we go," Arnold called over the engine noise. We eased out of the marina's protected waters into the open bay. Other boats dotted the area, some heading out like us, others already returning with their morning catch. Normal people enjoying normal Sunday fishing trips. Arnold steered us steadily seaward. The marina buildings grew smaller behind us, then the entire coastline began shrinking. I tried to track our progress, but without reference points, distances became meaningless. "This is pretty far out, isn't it?" I called to Arnold. "Not nearly far enough," he shouted back. "The best fish are way out there, where the big boats go." The last of the weekend fishing boats fell away behind us. Now we were alone, just a small speck on an enormous blue canvas. I gripped the boat's gunwale as we hit larger swells, spray occasionally misting over the bow. "Maybe we should stop here," I suggested. "I can barely see land." Arnold checked his GPS, shook his head. "Trust me, Dad. I know what I'm doing." Another 15 minutes passed. The coastline had become a thin brown line on the horizon. I counted at least 8 miles between us and shore, maybe more. No other boats were visible in any direction. My unease grew with each mile. This wasn't the casual fishing trip I'd imagined. This felt like a journey to the edge of the world. "Arnold, this is far enough. Let's drop anchor here." "Just a little further," he insisted. "We need to reach the underwater canyon where the really big fish hunt." But when I looked at his face, I saw something that chilled me more than the ocean breeze. Arnold wasn't looking for fish. He was calculating something else entirely, his eyes constantly checking our position relative to land. Finally, he cut the engine. Sudden silence enveloped us, broken only by waves lapping against the hull. We floated in the middle of nowhere, completely alone, farther from help than I'd ever been in my life. "Now what?" I asked. Arnold reached for the fishing rods, his smile strange and cold. "Let's set up the rods," Arnold said, his voice artificially cheerful. "You take the tackle box, Dad. Organize those lures like you always do." I knelt in the bow, opening my tackle box with familiar movements. The colored lures gleamed in the afternoon sun, spoons, jigs, and spinners I'd collected over decades of fishing. Normal tools for a normal day that felt anything but normal. "Remember that first fish you caught as a boy?" I asked, trying to recapture some warmth between us. "That little bluegill at Lake Monterey?" "I remember everything, Dad." Arnold's voice came from directly behind me. "Every fishing trip, every lecture about patience and responsibility." Something in his tone made me glance over my shoulder. Arnold stood 3 feet away, holding a fishing rod like a weapon. His face had transformed. No more forced friendliness, just cold calculation. "Arnold, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong anymore." He took a step closer. "In fact, everything's about to be perfect." The boat rocked slightly in the swells. 8 miles from shore. No other vessels in sight. Just father and son alone on the endless Pacific. Arnold's mind seemed made up about something final. "I've been thinking about our conversation last week," he said, moving behind me as I crouched over the tackle box, "about when I'll inherit your money." "Son, we can discuss?" Arnold's hand slammed into my back with tremendous force. The world tilted sideways. I tumbled over the boat's edge, tackle box flying, lures scattering like confetti. Cold water engulfed me. I surfaced, gasping, salt water burning my throat. The boat floated 10 feet away, Arnold standing at the rail looking down at me with satisfaction. "Arnold, help me!" I can't. I hope there are sharks out here. Arnold's voice carried clearly across the water. That would make this even more perfect. The betrayal hit harder than the ocean's chill. This wasn't an accident. This was planned, calculated. My own son had brought me here to die. Now I'll definitely get your inheritance, old man. The life insurance, the house, everything. I tried swimming toward the boat, but my clothes dragged me down. The heavy jacket I'd worn for ocean fishing now felt like an anchor. Arnold made no move to help. Instead, he started the motor. Arnold, please, come back. The engine roared to life. Arnold turned the boat in a tight circle, heading back toward the distant coastline. He never looked back, never hesitated, never showed a moment's regret. Help! I screamed at the empty ocean. Someone help me! But there was no one to hear, only waves and wind and the growing distance between me and the boat carrying my son away from his crime. The motor's sound faded gradually, leaving me alone in the vast Pacific. I treaded water, watching the boat shrink to a dot, then disappear entirely against the horizon. This couldn't be happening. Sons didn't murder their fathers for inheritance money. Families didn't end this way. But the cold water didn't care about what should or shouldn't happen. The Pacific Ocean simply waited, patient and eternal, ready to claim another victim of human greed. I called Arnold's name one last time, my voice swallowed by the immensity surrounding me. Only the waves answered back. Arnold! My voice cracked across the empty water, one final time. The boat had become a distant speck, then nothing at all. Silence surrounded me. Vast, terrifying silence broken only by waves slapping against my face. The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly in every direction, indifferent to my desperate situation. I treaded water, my fishing jacket dragging me down like lead weights. With numb fingers, I struggled to unzip it, finally managing to shrug out of the heavy canvas. It sank immediately, disappearing into the dark depths below. Without the jacket, I felt lighter, but more vulnerable. The water was shockingly cold, maybe 60 degrees, and my body heat was already leaching away. I had to keep moving to survive. Margaret's face flashed in my memory. During her final battle with cancer, she'd whispered, "Never give up, Norbert. No matter how impossible things seem, there's always hope." Her courage had sustained our family through the darkest months. Now I needed that same strength. My legs began cramping from the constant kicking motion. I switched to floating on my back, conserving energy while scanning the horizon for any sign of rescue. Nothing. Just endless blue water, meeting blue sky. The sun hung lower now, casting different shadows on the waves. How long had I been out here? An hour? 2? Time moved strangely when you were fighting for your life. Someone will come, I whispered to the waves. Someone has to come. But doubt crept in like the cold seeping through my clothes. Arnold had chosen this location carefully, far from shipping lanes, far from other fishermen. He'd planned this perfectly. My son had calculated my death. The betrayal cut deeper than the ocean's chill. I'd raised him, taught him to fish, helped him with homework, attended his graduation, and he'd repaid that love by trying to murder me for money. I won't give you the satisfaction, I said aloud, my voice stronger now. I'm going to live, Arnold, and I'm going to see justice done. Margaret's memory gave me renewed strength. She'd fought impossible odds and never complained, never surrendered hope. I could do the same. I resumed treading water, moving my arms and legs rhythmically to maintain circulation. The Pacific might be vast and cold, but I was still alive, still fighting. In the distance, seabirds wheeled and cried, but they offered no help. The sound of waves against distant rocks carried on the breeze. California's coastline, so far away it might as well have been another planet. But I kept moving, kept hoping. Margaret wouldn't forgive me if I gave up now, and somewhere out there, my grandchildren needed their grandfather to come home. A speck appeared on the horizon, dark against the orange sky. I squinted, willing it to be real, not just a hallucination born from desperation. The speck grew larger. Music drifted across the water, faint but unmistakable. Electronic music pulsed across the water, growing stronger as the vessel approached. A massive yacht, easily 100 feet long, cut through the swells with elegant power. Party lights twinkled along its rails, and I could see people moving on multiple decks, Help! I screamed, waving my arms frantically above my head. Help me! The yacht maintained its course, music masking my desperate cries. Panic seized my chest. They were going to pass right by without seeing me. Please! I shouted until my throat burned. I'm here. Right here. A woman in an elegant cocktail dress stepped to the yacht's railing, champagne glass in hand. She looked out over the water, scanning the sunset. Her gaze swept past me, then snapped back. Oh my goodness, she gasped, dropping her glass. There's someone in the water. Suddenly the yacht erupted in activity. The music cut off abruptly. People rushed to the railings, pointing in my direction. Crew members appeared with life rings and emergency equipment. Throw the life ring! Someone shouted. An orange ring sailed through the air, landing 10 feet away. I swam toward it with the last of my strength, grabbing the rope with numb fingers that barely functioned. Hold on, we're coming to get you. A small rescue boat lowered from the yacht's side. 2 crew members in uniforms piloted it toward me, their faces grim with professional concern. Sir, can you hear me? One called as they approached. You're safe now. We've got you. Strong hands pulled me from the water into the rescue boat. I collapsed onto the deck, shivering uncontrollably, water streaming from my clothes. Everything hurt, my muscles, my lungs, my heart. Get him aboard immediately, ordered a voice with clear authority. Medical attention, blankets, and hot coffee. Now. They transferred me to the yacht's main deck, where concerned faces surrounded me. Someone wrapped thick blankets around my shoulders, while another pressed a warm mug into my shaking hands. The yacht's deck felt like solid ground after hours in the water. Real, stable, safe. I looked up at the ring of people, well-dressed party guests who'd abandoned their celebration to help a stranger. Sir, what happened to you? Asked a distinguished man with silver hair. How did you end up out there? Behind him, I glimpsed a helicopter sitting on the yacht's landing pad. This wasn't just any pleasure craft. This was serious money, serious resources. My voice came out as a croak. My son, he tried to... Easy there, said a uniformed captain with weathered features. Take your time. You're safe now. The yacht's interior beckoned, warm, dry, civilized. As they helped me toward the cabin, I caught fragments of shocked conversation from the guests. Incredible that he survived. How long was he out there? Look at the poor man's condition. Someone was asking what happened to me, but I could barely form words yet. My rescue was real, but the nightmare was far from over. The truth would have to come out. Hot coffee burned my throat, but the warmth spread through my chest like liquid salvation. I sat in the yacht's luxurious main salon, surrounded by concerned faces that had transformed from party guests to rescue team in minutes. Take your time, said the silver-haired man who'd taken charge. I'm Senator Judson Blackwell. This is my yacht, and you're completely safe here. A senator. No wonder the yacht screamed wealth and power. I set down my mug with trembling hands, looking around at the expectant faces. These people deserved the truth. My name is Norbert Hayes, I began, my voice still hoarse from hours of calling for help. I was on a fishing trip with my son today. Where's your son now? Asked Captain Thorne, consulting a nautical chart. Is he still out there? The words came harder than I'd expected. He pushed me overboard and left me to die. Gasps echoed through the salon. Several women covered their mouths in shock. The senator's expression darkened immediately. Your own son tried to murder you? Judson's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to dealing with serious crimes. He's desperate for money, gambling debts, failed investments. He brought me 10 miles from shore and... I took a shaky breath. He said he hoped there were sharks, that now he'd definitely get my inheritance. This is horrific, exclaimed one of the female guests. A son attempting to kill his father? Captain, Judson ordered, contact the Coast Guard and local police immediately. We have a crime to report, and a perpetrator to apprehend. Captain Thorne was already reaching for his radio equipment. Sir, do you know where your son might be now? Probably back home in San Francisco, Pacific Heights area. I provided Arnold's address, watching these strangers mobilize with impressive efficiency. Senator, we can have a helicopter airborne in 15 minutes, Captain Thorne reported. I'll coordinate with SFPD for immediate arrest. Judson turned back to me, his political instincts fully engaged. Mr. Hayes, this won't go unpunished. I guarantee it. We'll get you home, and we'll get justice. The yacht's helicopter pilot appeared, already dressed in flight gear. Sir, aircraft is prepped for immediate departure. Medical kit is loaded for the passenger. I can't believe this happened, murmured one guest. A family betrayal this cruel? It happens more than you'd think, Judson replied grimly. Money corrupts people in ways that would shock you. But this particular criminal picked the wrong victim to abandon. They helped me toward the helicopter pad, my legs still weak from exhaustion. The contrast was surreal, from near death in the Pacific to rescue by a senator's private aircraft. Thank you, I managed to say as we walked. All of you. You saved my life. Arnold Hayes will spend the next 20 years regretting his choices, Judson declared. I'll personally ensure the district attorney prosecutes this to the full extent. The helicopter's rotors began spinning, creating a downdraft that scattered napkins from the abandoned party. In the distance, the sun touched the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. My son thought he'd killed me today. Instead, he'd only awakened a sleeping giant. Justice was coming. Detective Lopez, Senator Judson Blackwell speaking. I'm calling about an attempted murder that requires immediate action. Judson's authoritative voice cut through the yacht's ambient noise as he stood beside the communications console. His transformation from party host to powerful political figure was complete. This was a man accustomed to making things happen quickly. The suspect attempted to drown his own father for inheritance money. Yes, detective, his own father. Judson listened briefly, then continued with practiced efficiency. The victim is here with me now, alive and ready to provide testimony. I sat wrapped in blankets, still processing the surreal transition from near death to rescue by one of California's most influential senators. The yacht's communications room hummed with expensive equipment as Judson orchestrated my son's downfall. Arnold Hayes, Pacific Heights address. I provided the specific house number and street, watching Judson relay the information with military precision. Captain Thorne emerged from the navigation station, charts in hand. Sir, Riley's completed the helicopter inspection. We can be airborne in 20 minutes. Excellent timing, Judson covered the phone briefly. Mr. Hayes, are you medically cleared for flight? This will be a 90-minute journey to San Francisco. I'm ready, I replied, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. After 4 hours fighting for life in the Pacific, a helicopter ride seemed almost mundane. Detective, coordinate with your patrol units. The suspect believes his crime succeeded, so he won't be expecting company. Judson's political connections were clearly expediting everything. Senator priority on this case. I want him in custody before sunrise. Outside on the helicopter pad, Riley Vargas moved with professional efficiency, checking fuel levels and testing rotor mechanisms. His military background showed in every precise movement. Flight plan filed for emergency priority, Captain Thorne reported. Coast Guard has been notified of our mission. All clearances approved. The yacht guests had gathered in supportive clusters, offering spare clothing and expressions of outrage at Arnold's betrayal. Several pressed business cards into my hands, insisting I contact them if any assistance was needed during the legal proceedings. The evidence is overwhelming, Judson explained to the detective. Witness testimony, physical evidence of abandonment, clear motive established. This should be straightforward prosecution. Riley appeared in the doorway, flight helmet in hand. Aircraft ready for immediate departure, Senator. Weather's clear all the way to San Francisco. Thank you. I looked around at these strangers who'd become my salvation. All of you. You've given me back my life. Arnold Hayes will regret his choices for the next 20 years, Judson declared grimly. Justice moves swiftly when it has the right motivation. The helicopter's engines began spinning up, creating vibrations through the yacht's deck. Riley secured loose items as the rotor wash increased, professional preparation evident in every action. Judson placed a firm hand on my shoulder as we headed toward the aircraft. Ready to face your son, Mr. Hayes. The spinning rotors grew louder, but we hadn't lifted off yet. Helicopter blades slowed to a whisper as Riley set us down in Golden Gate Park. Dawn light revealing San Francisco's expensive neighborhoods, stretching toward the bay. Detective Maria Lopez waited beside an unmarked police car, her stern expression matching the gravity of our mission. Mr. Hayes, "I'm sorry about what your son put you through," she said, shaking my hand with professional sympathy. "We have units positioned around his house. He returned home 30 minutes ago." Through the morning mist, I could see Arnold's BMW parked in his driveway 3 blocks away. The expensive Pacific Heights home looked peaceful, normal, a perfect facade hiding the monster who lived inside. "Target just exited his vehicle," crackled a radio voice. "Appears intoxicated, moving slowly toward front door." Detective Lopez adjusted her earpiece. "All units hold position. The father wants to confront him directly first." We walked quietly through the upscale neighborhood, expensive homes standing like silent witnesses to the approaching justice. Arnold's house loomed ahead, the same place I'd visited for family dinners, birthday parties, Christmas mornings that now felt like lies. Arnold fumbled with his keys at the front door, obviously celebrating what he believed was his successful murder. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his movements unsteady from whatever alcohol had helped him toast my supposed death. "Now," Detective Lopez whispered into her radio. I stepped into view as Arnold finally managed to unlock his door. "Hello, son?" Arnold's keys clattered to the concrete steps. His face went completely white, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. For a moment, neither of us moved. "How are you?" His voice came out as a strangled whisper. "You were supposed to die." The ocean had different plans. I kept my voice calm, controlled. After everything I'd endured, this moment felt surprisingly peaceful. "I prepared a surprise for you too, Arnold." "This can't be happening." Arnold's panic was building rapidly. "You drowned. I watched you go under." Police officers emerged from their concealed positions, surrounding the property with quiet efficiency. Detective Lopez stepped forward, handcuffs ready. "Arnold Hayes, you're under arrest for attempted murder." Her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "You have the right to remain silent." Arnold's legs gave out. He collapsed against his front door, the expensive wood failing to support his emotional breakdown. "This isn't real. This can't be real." "The ocean brought me back, Arnold." I watched officers secure the handcuffs, feeling something close to peace. Justice brought me home. As they guided him toward the police car, Arnold looked back at me with desperate eyes. "Dad, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." I met his gaze steadily. "But I forgive you anyway." The police car doors closed with finality. Arnold's face pressed against the window as they drove away. Detective Lopez approached with paperwork, but I was watching my son disappear around the corner, heading toward consequences that would define the rest of his life. September sunshine warmed the courthouse steps as I walked up to deliver my final testimony. 3 months had passed since that terrible day on the ocean, and the legal system had moved with remarkable efficiency thanks to Judson's influence and the overwhelming evidence. 20 years for attempted murder," Judge Morrison announced, her gavel echoing through the packed courtroom. "This court finds such family betrayal particularly heinous and sentences accordingly." Arnold sat slumped at the defendant's table, his expensive lawyer unable to overcome the mountain of evidence. His wife had already filed for divorce, taking the children and what remained of their assets. The gambling debts had consumed everything else. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered for statements, but I kept walking. Justice had been served. No additional commentary was needed. That afternoon, I signed papers selling my life insurance policy and half my savings. The money would go into education funds for my grandchildren, ensuring Arnold's choices wouldn't destroy their futures. They deserve better than their father's legacy. "That's remarkably generous," Judson observed as we reviewed the documents aboard his yacht. These monthly fishing trips had become a tradition, our friendship forged in crisis, but sustained by genuine respect. Margaret always said children shouldn't pay for their parents' mistakes. I cast my line into the same Pacific waters that had nearly claimed my life. Besides, I have more than enough for my needs. We fished in comfortable silence, 2 men who'd found unexpected friendship through extraordinary circumstances. Judson's political connections had ensured swift justice, but our relationship had evolved beyond simple gratitude. "Any regrets about the volunteer work?" he asked, reeling in his line to check the bait. "None whatsoever." 3 days a week, I now help train ocean rescue volunteers, sharing my survival experience with people who might face similar emergencies. Turning trauma into purpose feels right. The Ocean Rescue Program had welcomed my expertise enthusiastically. My story had become part of their training curriculum, a real-world example of survival techniques and the importance of never giving up hope. Margaret would approve, I continued, watching seabirds dive for fish in the distance. She always believed suffering meant nothing unless it helped others. Arnold's letters from prison remained unopened in my desk drawer. Someday I might read them, might even visit him, but not yet. Forgiveness was a process, not an event. The sun touched the horizon, painting the Pacific in shades of gold and crimson. Judson and I packed our gear with the satisfaction of another peaceful day on the water, the same ocean that had tested my will to live now, providing solace and friendship. I touched Margaret's photograph in my wallet, her smile as bright as the day we married. She'd be proud of how this story ended, not with revenge, but with justice, generosity, and new purpose. The yacht turned toward shore, carrying two friends who'd learned that sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the most meaningful connections. Justice had been served. Life continued, richer than before. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.